Are you going to watch the State of the Union? 217-629-7970. Good morning. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Follow me on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Just search everywhere, Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. You can also call in live and local at 217-629-7970. And let me know, are you going to watch the State of the Union address? Now, tomorrow morning, we'll do what we can to bring you highlights. I'm going to do what I can to stay up late. It's 8 o'clock our time is when it starts, which... honestly, when you do morning talk radio, my alarm goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning. I hit snooze once, rolled out of bed this morning, hopped on a treadmill, jogged about 3.5 miles, got some coffee made, read 3 different newspapers, compiled my show prep, got everything together I needed to get together, got to work. So, listen, staying up past 7:30 or 8 o'clock is... pretty difficult for me, especially when Wednesdays we're not only doing the council roundup for the 7 o'clock hour, but we also want to unpack whatever was talked about at the State of the Union address with President Joe Biden. What do you think he's going to talk about? Do you think he's going to address the spy balloon? Do you think he's going to address the high inflation? Do you think he's going to address his poll numbers, which are pretty low considering? So stay tuned. We'll talk about that coming up. But of course, we'll take your phone calls as they come in, 217-629-7970. Somebody on YouTube says, nope, not going to watch. Waste of time. It'll be mostly lies and propaganda, the YouTube commenter says. So I want to hear from you, and you can comment anywhere. If you're watching this on Facebook on WMAY News, if you're watching this on Twitter through Bishop on Air, or Facebook or YouTube through Bishop on Air, you can comment that way as well, or email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. Somebody else who says they're not going, Mary Miller, the congresswoman here for Central Illinois. She says Joe Biden lied about the borders being secure. He lied about inflation. He lied about gas prices. He lied about vaccine mandates. He lied about taking classified documents. She says that she will not sit there while Congress and reporters clap for his lies, she says on Twitter. Let's get your calls now at 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, good morning, Greg. It's a lovely day today. I think I might watch it just for the comedy effect, but that Pompeo and the head of NORAD, when Trump was in office, said that never happened, those balloons. And if the guy,
even John Bolton, who was not a fan of Trump, despite Trump hiring him, said that it's ludicrous to think that. What, the Biden administration has some kind of time machine? Bolton asked.
Well, they're lying, and that's why this lady you're talking about she's gonna not even show up, because it's just gonna be a bunch of falderall.
Yeah, it's an interesting word to use this morning, falderall. We'll have to look that up. Appreciate it. 217-629-7970, falderall. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, Greg, I'm going to stay up and watch it as long as it doesn't run longer than Bill Clinton's 1990 State of the Union address, which I think was the record at an hour and 14 minutes, maybe.
See, I was probably about 7 years old or so I don't remember that State of the Union address.
Yeah, it was the longest one on record. It was like running a filibuster. But I figure I've listened to the rest of them lie to me. I might as well listen to this guy lie to me too,
Well, I think a lot of people are going to watch anyways, despite not being fans of the current president, just to see what the president has to say. Appreciate the call. We'll take another one here, 217-629-7970. By the way, falderall, for those of you who are keeping track, it is trivial or nonsensical fuss. A showy but useless item, falderall. So learning new words as we go this morning. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
You can already kind of see his lies revving up on Twitter. The one thing that he can't lie about is the IRS data, which there's less personal filers than there was prior to COVID. And I don't know when we started allowing this lie that presidents create jobs, that his policies are working. His policies have done nothing to create jobs, because outside of government jobs, they have no power to create jobs.
Yeah, and we hear that a lot, right? I mean, the President Joe Biden heralding large numbers of jobs created during his administration. But if you look historically back, even just 4 years ago, is the Trump administration, where you had the economy looking like it was on rocket fuel. And then all of a sudden, you had states across the country issue stay-at-home orders because of a virus that has all but dissipated. I mean, you've got people lifting their vaccine mandates across the board, including in the U.S. military and in New York City and elsewhere, where they were firing people for not taking the vaccine. Now they're just lifting it across the board. We'll talk about that a bit. But I mean, the president talks about how, we have the greatest job growth in our nation's history. Well, that's because states across the country forced businesses to close to in-person service. You think that doesn't affect the starting point for when Joe Biden took office?
There's one number that people need to pay attention to. Actually, two. Take-home real wages are down, and because of Joe Biden's Fed, which he could have replaced and he could have changed, our interest on our debt alone will exceed our defense spending this year. And that is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Taking your calls here at 217-629-7970 about the President's State of the Union address tonight. Are you going to watch? Just some of the things here. Here's a headline. Biden prepares for State of the Union address amid China balloon debacle, classified document crisis, and divided Congress. It's going to be delivered at 8 o'clock our time in front of a joint session of Congress. Apparently, he's going to make the case the nation is strong and that there are better days ahead. But Republicans are looking to undo some of the Biden administration's happenings. And you also have issues of Ukraine that could come up when it comes to international affairs. Is he going to talk about the balloon at all from China? What about recent mass shootings? Is that something that the president's going to level into to talk about when it comes to what his administration is going to do about that? Biden versus McCarthy. You got the new House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, will be sitting behind the president. But all of this while you've got those who are saying they're going to boycott, like Mary Miller, Central Illinois Congresswoman. And who's the guests are going to be? Dick Durbin is going to be taking a business owner from Peoria to be his guest. Chris Manson, he works for OSF Healthcare in Peoria and is the founder of U.S. Ambulances for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Jill Biden is going to be having Rolling Meadows High School student sit at her box during the State of the Union address. So what do you think? Are you going to be watching the State of the Union address? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
If I do, it'll probably end up being a drinking game, and I won't be in much good shape the next morning.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I think we're kind of the like mind. What do you think are some of the things that should be on that drinking card bingo?
Every time he mentions China,
okay,
mentions something to do with the economy.
Okay, yeah,
and something to do with gun control.
All right. How about we add onto that list as well? Anytime he mentions COVID. Does that work?
I think he's going to downplay COVID.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll
because the government is starting to poise to ending the COVID emergency.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to try to downplay COVID a little bit.
Do you think he'll mention it at least once?
Maybe once.
All right. Well, maybe once. Appreciate the call. Some interesting predictions there. 217-629-7970. Got a few more coming in. Let's get this last one before the break. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Come on, man. You know the deal, GB.
Come on, man.
You know the deal. I think I'm going to pass on watching it tonight. It's just not going to have the same dramatic effect as when we had Nancy Pelosi sitting in the background, sucking her teeth and looking like Mr. Ed chewing some straw.
Well, and don't forget about that Nancy Pelosi clap that looked like, a seal clapping, and Nancy Pelosi also destroying government documents by ripping up Trump's speech, if you remember that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's the Joan Rivers clap is what that is.
Oh, is that?
With the arms extended all the way out.
Yeah. Oh, boy. The theatrics of Washington, D.C., it's quite remarkable. But the Associated Press did something interesting we'll get to here in a moment about using ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence. They asked artificial intelligence to create some State of the Union speeches in the voice of Jerry Seinfeld or Martin Luther King or Shakespeare. That's right. The Associated Press asking artificial intelligence to write a State of the Union speech in the voice of some historical figures. Interesting. But all of this, of course, with the State of the Union address, it comes amid President Joe Biden facing not the best approval rating. Overall, 41% approve of how he's handling his job. This coming from the latest Associated Press NORC poll. And it shows that about 37% of Democrats say they want him to seek a second term, down from 52% in the weeks before last year's midterm election. Overall, 41% approve of how Biden's handling his job as president. Among Democrats, 45 and over, 49% say Biden should run for re-election. Nearly as many as 58% who said that in October. Half of the age group, those 45 and younger, only 23% say that Biden should run for re-election. So you've got some pretty dismal numbers there when it comes to President Joe Biden's approval rating amongst who should be his base, including young Democrats. Well, we've been getting some of your thoughts about the president's State of the Union address, and do you plan on watching tonight, 8 o'clock? You can also hear it here live in Central Illinois on WMAY 92.7 FM if you're driving around at that time of the day. But, of course, we'll give you the highlights tomorrow morning on WMAY. But, some of the comments that we're getting here on Facebook, somebody says, or on YouTube even, says, I don't need to watch Biden tout his so-called successes. The truth is, Americans are still struggling with prices out of control. Our border is wide open and a threat to national security. Worried for USA. Also curious how many gaffes he'll make. LMAO. Another YouTuber says, yeah, but no, his handlers have been prepping him since last year, so he'll have less gaffes, but it'll be big. LOL. They did Joe Biden. It was hilarious. Oh, he's talking about the Chat GPT, which we'll get to here in a moment. But the Chat GPT, artificial intelligence, let's just put it that way. So we'll touch on that in a moment. But, of course, the president's going to give his speech, and there's going to be reaction speeches. The Republicans are going to have Sarah Huckabee Sanders give the GOP response. She's the Arkansas governor now after November's election. So it'll be interesting to see what Huckabee Sanders has to say about Biden's address. But a Illinois congresswoman is going to deliver the progressive response. U.S. Representative Delia Ramirez, who is a former state lawmaker, she was elected to Congress, and she's expected to provide for the address from the progressives, while Mary Miller is the Republican from Central Illinois who's not going to be attending Biden's speech. She's a member of the House Freedom Caucus, and she is boycotting that. So, of course, you'll see kind of the interesting responses there as the night progresses. But the Chat GPT, if you are a subscriber to the State Journal Register, you'll see this story in today's print edition, where it talks about Chat GPT and how the Associated Press used the artificial intelligence to essentially have a State of the Union address penned by a whole bunch of figures. And they did Elvis Presley, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., Indian independence leader Mahatma Gandhi, the groundbreaking NASA mathematician Katherine Johnson, and Yogi Berra, among others. In Shakespeare's speech, apparently Shakespeare wanted to rhyme. He says, "My lords and ladies, countrymen and women, gather ye here today to hear what I have to say. In this great hall of ours, let us unite and listen to the state of our fair state. We today, as one, in good health and grace, prosperous and free, with a peaceful space, our trade and commerce flourish, wealth abounds, with bountiful harvests and peace surrounds." It goes on from there. Martin Luther King, artificial intelligence apparently spit this out, saying, "My fellow Americans, we gather here today at a monumentous time in our nation's history to address the state of our union. And as we do so, I'm reminded of the words of the great prophet Amos. who declared, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. For too long, justice has been denied to too many in our society." So ChatGPT goes on from there to give a State of the Union address in the voice of Martin Luther King Jr. Interesting exercise that the Associated Press did here. And then they also went on to have a State of the State address as delivered by Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah. Where's my... So here's how artificial intelligence spit out a State of the Union address as penned by Jerry Seinfeld. "I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I've realized the state of our union is like a sandwich. We've got the top bun, which is all the good stuff. We've got the economy, which is looking pretty tasty. We've got low unemployment, and businesses are thriving. I want to focus on the bottom bun. I want to focus on the foundation. I want to talk about the things that we don't always see or talk about, but that are so important. I want to talk about education and healthcare and infrastructure. I want to talk about the things that make our economy strong. Let's make sure that our country is a delicious sandwich that we can all be proud of." So, yeah, the Associated Press doing the groundbreaking research and bringing you the latest about how artificial intelligence is able to craft a State of the Union speech from whoever you want it to be, making that State of the Union speech. But speaking of artificial intelligence, Google is hoping that their Bard artificial intelligence, BARD, will actually counter ChatGPT and Microsoft versions of artificial intelligence. But I will say there have been some alarming reports out there about artificial intelligence having bias built in some interesting ways. For instance, I saw one person on Twitter share what ChatGPT spit out when it asked, "What are 10 things that white people need to work on?" And it spit out 10 things that white people need to work on. But then when it asked, "What are 10 things Latin Americans need to work on?" or Black Americans need to work on, and it refused to do so. So you can kind of see that having some built-in bias on artificial intelligence could be rather alarming and skewing things certain ways. So interesting to track that as well. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on